In The Phantom Menace, Qui-Gon promised Shmi that Anakin would become a Jedi without the approval of the Council. The Council later denied that Anakin be trained. However, in Qui-Gon's dying breath, he asked Obi-Wan to train the boy, which changed the Council's decision. But what if the Council never changed their mind, and Anakin was rejected from the Jedi Order? Yoda tells Obi-Wan that Anakin will not be trained as a Jedi. Obi-Wan is shocked to hear this decision, because the Council knows the promise he made to Qui-Gon. He closes his eyes momentarily and accepts the Council's decision and leaves the Jedi Order with Anakin. Anakin and Obi-Wan head towards a public transport station away from the Jedi Temple when they hear their names called out behind them. They turn around to see Padme and her body doubles walking towards them. She tells them it's good to see them, but she's saddened by the recent news of Anakin's rejection from the Jedi Order. Because of Anakin and Obi-Wan's heroics on Naboo, Queen Amidala invites them to come and live on Naboo. Padme saw the horrors of slavery on Tatooine firsthand and felt an obligation to repay Shmi and her hospitality, so offered for her to free Anakin's mother and bring her with them. Anakin is ecstatic from this news, living in a lush and prosperous world with her mother, the life Anakin dreamed of. Together they fly to Tatooine, buy Shmi's freedom and bring her with them to Naboo. As they enter Naboo's atmosphere, they are bombarded with a world they can only believe existed in their dreams. A planet with rolling hills, forests, lakes, and oceans. The capital city Theed is a wonder in itself, known for its stunning architecture and developed society. Anakin and Shmi are looking outside in amazement, but Obi-Wan cannot help but feel worried. He had no choice but to accept Shmi coming with them. He couldn't deny Anakin the opportunity to free his mother from slavery and allow her to come live with them. He would have resented Obi-Wan for the rest of his life and potentially not allow him to train him. Obi-Wan only wishes Padme spoken with him privately beforehand. He fears this will affect Anakin's training as a Jedi, but he is forced to accept the realization that they are no longer Jedi, and he must train Anakin in the light side of the Force the best way he can. They move into a countryside house, only a 15-minute speeder ride from the city Theed. Obi-Wan requested this because he thought training in nature would help hone Anakin's skills and connection to the Force. Obi-Wan begins training Anakin in the Force. He's a fast learner and latches onto the basics very quickly. He's very good at the physical aspect of the Force, but struggles with the mental side. Instead of Obi-Wan teaching Anakin to have no attachments, which he deems impossible with his mother here, he tries to teach him to accept the emotions that come with attachments, like fear and love, but not to let them control him. However, Obi-Wan doesn't know if he believes in what he's teaching. He's grown up as a Jedi, and suddenly had to change his values to teach Anakin. He's still just a Padawan, inexperienced and not qualified to teach the Chosen One. This affects the bond between Anakin and Obi-Wan. Kenobi is still in pain. His master just died, and moving away from the order he'd given his life to has led to a lot of internal conflict. Although new in the Force, Anakin can sense this turmoil within Obi-Wan, and in his youth blames himself. He blames himself for bringing Obi-Wan with him, forcing him out of the order just to train him. And at the same time, Anakin doesn't feel that Obi-Wan wants to train him, but is forced to. Previously, Palpatine was the only source of comfort Anakin had, but now he has Padme and his mother. He still dreams about Padme day and night. However, he sees her fairly often as she comes to visit. Anakin has hit a wall in his training. The bond between master and apprentice is important for one's growth, but Obi-Wan's deep resentment towards Anakin is starting to affect his training. Back on Coruscant, Palpatine attempts to think of a way to get Anakin to his side. The Chosen One must be his, and now that he wasn't accepted into the Jedi Order, another foolish decision by the Council. It will never be as easy as it is to do this now. He decides to send Dooku, who is only viewed to the wider galaxy as one that left the Jedi Order due to his disillusion with the Council and Galactic Senate. No one knows he's begun his journey down the dark path except himself and Sidious. Sidious plans for Dooku to use his past as Qui-Gon's master to connect with Obi-Wan and manipulate him into letting him train Anakin in the ways of the Force. Dooku touches down outside their home and exits the ship to see Obi-Wan there. Obi-Wan can't believe it's Dooku, Qui-Gon's master, and introduces himself for the first time. Dooku explains to Obi-Wan how he'd heard about this situation and can sense the struggle he's going through. He continues his manipulation, explaining how he's not ready for the job of training the Chosen One, but it's honorable to do so for Qui-Gon's legacy. He continues by saying that training the Chosen One is too important of a task, and Dooku offers to take Anakin and train him in the ways of the Force. Obi-Wan weighs up his options. Dooku is an experienced master, strong in the Force. He would be a great teacher for Anakin. However, he did leave the Jedi Order. But that doesn't matter. What Anakin needs is a proper teacher, one that knows the intricacies of the Force, who has experienced training Padawans. Obi-Wan accepts Dooku's offer, and they go to discuss it with Anakin. Dooku explains to the boy his relationship with Qui-Gon, which helps them form a bond between the two. However, he explains how they will have to leave Naboo, leave his mother to continue his training. This shocked Anakin at first, as he's begun living the life he'd dreamed of, but Shmi intervenes by telling Anakin that this might be the only way he can learn the ways of the Force, so should do it. She kneels down to him and tells Anakin that he must use his power for good, but to do this, he must go and learn with Master Dooku. Anakin agrees with his mother. He knows she's free and can start living a good life, a life for herself. This is enough for him. He leaves with Dooku and they head off for Sereno. Obi-Wan also leaves Naboo and is accepted back into the Jedi Order. Anakin begins learning the ways of the Force under Dooku. Anakin thinks he's learning the ways of the Jedi, but he couldn't be more wrong. Anakin had no idea of the Sith or the dark side. He'd only seen Maul on Tatooine, but didn't learn anything more about it. Dooku trains Anakin in the dark side, and his power in the Force grows. He's gained strength and power through his passion and unwavering ambition. Dooku introduces Anakin to Sidious and labels him as his master. He tells Anakin that from now on, Sidious will help him with his training as well. Anakin thinks nothing of it, but he can sense the power this being holds and wants it for himself. Anakin moves into the industrial region of Coruscant and mainly trains under Sidious. For the next 10 years, Anakin hones his skills in the dark side. His mind had been completely corrupted and the sweet boy that once lived on Tatooine was gone. He was a servant of the darkness now, the apprentice to the Sith Master. Sidious embodied power and Anakin craved it. Anakin had completed his training and it was time for the Sith to reveal themselves. The Clone War begins shortly after this, and Anakin is a lead general for the Separatist army. He leads a terrifying platoon of battle droids, but also a skilled group of dark side acolytes who are professional assassins. The war is set up by Palpatine to introduce doubt in the people of the Republic towards the Jedi Order. He needs to switch their view from defenders of peace to the enemies of it. But the war is also a chance to help Anakin become more skilled and get combat experience fighting Jedi. The Jedi were shocked to see Anakin become a lead figure on the Separatist forces. Obi-Wan personally feels a lot of guilt. He handed the boy over to Dooku for him to be trained in the Force, but he didn't realize Dooku was a Sith at that point in time. The Jedi Council bears some responsibility and questions their decisions they made all those years ago. They discuss what to do. Anakin's forces have won every battle they've engaged in, and from their point of view, the only way for them to win the war is eliminate Skywalker. Yoda intervenes and tells the council there might be another way. He's read about a ritual deep in the Jedi archives, sometimes used by the Jedi of old, to cleanse the darkness within a person. In a sense, remove the mask of the dark side to unveil the person underneath whom they were before their dark side training. A few of the other masters had learnt about it but forgot until now. They think it would work if the council collectively used their strength together, but they first need to capture him. They divulge a plan to ambush Anakin's fleet, draw him in with the lie of victory, just to surround him with too many Jedi that he cannot win. They carry out this plan flawlessly. They kill Anakin's assassin squad, and he's surrounded by 7 masters and 5 knights. He is disarmed and brought back to the Jedi Temple. He is taken in front of the council, whom all are present. He sits in the middle of the room, his yellow eyes glowing brighter than any other light source, his mind and soul corrupted by darkness. Every master sticks out their hand towards him and begins chanting. Anakin starts to move around, like he has an incurable itch. The masters chant deeper, and Anakin begins squirming uncontrollably. He screams for them to stop, but these requests are in vain. He falls out of consciousness and the ritual ends. Anakin spends days asleep in the hospital as he opens his eyes to see Obi-Wan and a few other masters staring intently upon him. They sense no trace of darkness within him. Anakin doesn't remember a lot. The last thing he remembers is Dooku taking him to Sereno. He looks in the mirror to see a face he doesn't recognize. Slowly they fill him in, tell him how he became a servant of the dark side. Anakin doesn't know what to think. The Jedi don't give him time before bombarding him with questions about the Sith Lord, but he doesn't know anything. He desperately asks about his mother, but they haven't heard anything in years. Anakin thinks to himself for a second. He can't believe 10 years has gone by, and he cannot remember a thing. The Obi-Wan that stands in front of him is almost unrecognizable. Anakin blames the Sith for corrupting him and taking away quality time with his mother, and needs to rectify these actions. He feels unwavering resolve and determination to get revenge on the Sith. He desperately wants to see his mother, but knows that this will have to wait. The ritual was successful. There is no hint of the dark side in Anakin. Yoda proclaims there and then they will overturn their foolish decisions they made years ago and begin training Anakin in the Force. Despite having his memory wiped, Anakin's subconscious connection and skill in the Force remained strong and unrivaled. He had trained constantly for 10 years, so his lightsaber skills were etched into his brain. Nothing could remove that. His telekinesis was strong as any other master, and within a year inside the Order, he was able to harness it and bring it back to the level it once was. Palpatine could not believe what the Jedi had done to Anakin. He did not know or think it was possible, erasing the dark side from someone. It sounds like magic, but they had done it, and he was forced to watch his prized possession relearn everything he had taught him, but now is a Jedi fighting against him. Palpatine had influence over both sides of the war and strengthens the Separatist movement. His plan is to now overthrow the Republic with their army, but swoop in at the end to save it, gaining the favor of the people. The war effort looks bleak for the Republic. The Separatists have improved their strategy. The Republic begins losing battle after battle, Jedi dying in high numbers. The advance towards the capital increases, and Sidious is getting ready for a full-on assault. Grievous, Dooku, and Sidious will front the raid on the Jedi Temple, backed by the clones and Grievous's army in the skies. The Battle of Coruscant begins. Palpatine is kidnapped, but this is a front to get the three Sith together. Before he was captured, Palpatine ordered the Jedi Council to bring all Jedi back to Coruscant to prepare for the battle. Dooku, Grievous, and Sidious head towards the surface of the planet. They know the plan. He executes Order 66 mid-air, and Jedi begin to collapse around the galaxy, fallen to the guns of the clones. The Force has changed. The dark side is ever so strong. They land and begin purging the Jedi Temple. The younglings and Padawans don't stand a chance. The Knights and Masters put up a solid fight, but when attacked by multiple lightsaber masters and clones, it's hard for them to defend themselves. Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Yoda were preparing for the battle when the raid began and have stayed together since, saving younglings and assisting in their evacuation. They decide it's time to look for the perpetrators and head towards the main foyer. In the distance, they see two red blades and Grievous cutting down Jedi like they are nothing. They rush towards them. Dooku comes into their focus as one of the wielders of a red blade, but the other brings Yoda's worst fears alive as he witnesses Chancellor Palpatine killing Jedi. He puts aside his emotions and the battle begins. Anakin takes on Dooku, his former master, Obi-Wan, Grievous, and Yoda, the Sith Lord Palpatine. Grievous falls first to Obi-Wan's lightsaber. The master of the defensive Form 3 technique was the perfect matchup for the droid commander. Obi-Wan joined Anakin against Dooku. By himself, Dooku could hold his own against Anakin, but not with Obi-Wan by his side. The Count falls to Obi-Wan's blade, retribution for manipulating him all those years ago. However, they look over towards Yoda, who had just had his ear cut off and is then sliced in half by Palpatine. He screams a Sith cry and spins towards the Jedi. Obi-Wan begins defending and Anakin mixes in defense with attacks. Palpatine spins around to kick Obi-Wan with a forceful blow right against the nearest pillar. He hits the back of his head, causing him to knock unconscious. Anakin looks at Palpatine. His training in the light side had come far, but he cannot help but feel rage and the need for revenge towards Sidious. He uses his Jedi teachings as well as his anger to press forward towards Palpatine, both sides of the Force aiding him. Anakin senses Palpatine is weakened and notices blood dripping from his abdomen and upper back. Master Yoda must have injured him before his death, he is not at full capacity. Anakin has a chance. Sid's defenses are weakening. He cannot keep up with the youthful Anakin Skywalker, utilizing all aspects of the Force, the light and dark, as he penetrates the Sith Lord's defenses and pierces his sternum with his lightsaber, causing blood to enter both his lung and heart cavities, a wound that cannot be healed. He slumps to the ground as life and the Force leaves him. The Sith and Jedi have both been defeated. Order 65 was executed shortly after the raid so that the clones stopped killing the Jedi. The Battle of Coruscant continued, but without leadership, the Separatist fleet quickly fell under the siege by Mace Windu. The Jedi numbers are low, under 100. They will have to rebuild. Anakin was the chosen one. He brought balance to the Force by aiding the Sith in defeating the Jedi, but also defeating the Sith himself. After all the pain he's been through, he decides his time in the Force is over and needs to live for himself. He's completed his task. He moves back to Naboo to see his mother for the first time in 10 years, and they live happily together. He travels in one day to Theed, the main city, to get supplies. At the local shopping center, a woman asks Anakin to grab something on the top shelf. He hands it to her, only to hear,
"Annie? My goodness, you've grown."
And the rest is history. If you watch this video, you must watch What If Padme Amidala Was a Jedi and What If Sifo Dyas joined Count Dooku. If you want to support the channel, become a member or check out our Patreon in the description. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and I'll see you next time.